Your Fabric data warehouse is just a CSV graveyard. I know that stinks, but look at how you're using it. Endless CSV dumps, cold tables, scheduled ETL jobs lumbering along like it's 2015. You bought Fabric to launch your data into the age of AI, and then you turned it into an archive. The irony is exquisite. Fabric was built for intelligence, real-time insight, contextual reasoning, self-adjusting analytics. Yet here you are, treating it like digital Tupperware. Meanwhile, the AI layer you paid for, the data agents, the contextual governance, the semantic reasoning, sits dormant, waiting for instructions that never come. So the problem isn't capacity and it's not data quality. It's thinking. You don't have a data problem, you have a conceptual one, mistaking intelligence infrastructure for storage. Let's fix that mental model before your CFO realizes you've reinvented a network drive with better branding. The dead data problem. Legacy behavior dies hard. Most organizations still run nightly ETL jobs that sweep operational systems, flatten tables into comma-separated relics, and upload the corpses into one lake. It's comforting, predictable, measurable, seductively simple. But what you end up with is a static museum of snapshots. Each file represents how things looked at one moment and immediately begins to decay. There's no motion, no relationships, no evolving context. Just files, lots of them. The truth? That approach made sense when data lived on-prem in constrained systems. Fabric was designed for something else entirely: living data, streaming data, context-aware intelligence. One lake isn't a filing cabinet, it's supposed to be the circulatory system of your organization's information flow. Treating it like cold storage is the digital equivalent of embalming your business metrics. Without semantic models, your data has no language. Without relationships, it has no memory. A CSV from sales, a CSV from marketing, a CSV from finance, they can coexist peacefully in the same lake and still never talk to each other. Governance structures? Missing. Metadata? Optional, apparently. The result is isolation so pure that even Copilot, Microsoft's conversational AI, can't interpret it. If you ask Copilot, what were last quarter's revenue drivers? It doesn't know where to look because you never told it what revenue means in your schema. Let's take a micro example. Suppose your sales data set contains transaction records, dates, amounts, product SKUs, and region codes. You happily dump it into one lake. No semantic model, no named relationships, just raw table columns. Now ask Fabric's AI to identify top-performing regions. It shrugs. It cannot contextualize region code without metadata linking it to geography or organizational units. To the machine, USN could mean North America or user segment North. Humans rely on inference. AI requires explicit structure. That's the gap turning your warehouse into a morgue. Here's what most people miss. Fabric doesn't treat data at rest and data in motion as separate species. It assumes every dataset could one day become an intelligent participant, queried in real time, enriched by context, reshaped by governance rules, and even reasoned over by agents. When you persist CSVs without activating those connections, you're ignoring Fabric's metabolic design. You chop off its nervous system. Compare that to data in motion. In Fabric, real-time intelligence modules ingest streaming signals, IoT events, transaction logs, sensor pings, and feed them into live datasets that can trigger responses instantly. Anomaly detection isn't run weekly, it happens continuously. Trend analysis doesn't wait for the quarter's end. It updates on every new record. This is what a live data looks like. Constantly evaluated, contextualized by AI agents, and subject to governance rules in milliseconds. The difference between data at rest and data in motion is fundamental. Resting data answers what happened, but moving data answers what's happening and what should we do next. If your warehouse only does the former, you are running a historical archive, not a decision engine. Fabric's purpose is to compress that timeline until observation and action are indistinguishable. Without AI activation, you're storing fossils. With it, you're managing living organisms that adapt to context. Think of your warehouse like a body. One lake is the bloodstream, semantic models are the DNA, and data agents are the brain cells firing signals across systems. Right now, most of you have the bloodstream but no brain function. The organs exist, but nothing coordinates. And yes, it's comfortable that way. No surprises, no sudden automation, no rogue recommendations. Static systems don't disobey, but they also don't compete. In an environment where 90% of large enterprises are feeding their warehouses to AI agents, leaving your data inert is like stocking a luxury aquarium with plastic fish because you prefer predictability over life. So what should be alive in your one lake? The relationships, the context, and the intelligence that link your data sets into a cohesive worldview. Once you stop dumping raw CSVs and start modeling information for AI consumption, Fabric starts behaving as intended, an ecosystem of living, thinking data instead of an icebox of obsolete numbers. If your ETL pipeline still ends with store CSV, congratulations. You've automated the world's most expensive burial process. In the next section, we'll exhume those files, give them a brain, and show you what actually makes Fabric intelligent, the data agents. The missing intelligence layer. Enter the part everyone skips. The actual intelligence layer, the thing that separates a warehouse from a brain. Microsoft calls them data agents, but think of them as neurons that finally start firing once you stop treating one lake like a storage locker. These agents are not decorative features. They are the operational cortex that Fabric quietly installs for you and that most of you heroically ignore. Let's begin with the mistake. People obsess over dashboards. They think if Power BI shows a colorful line trending upward, they've achieved enlightenment. Meanwhile, they've left the reasoning layer, the dynamic element that interprets patterns and acts on them, unplugged. That's like buying a Tesla, admiring the screen graphics, and never pressing the accelerator. The average user believes Fabric's beauty lies in uniform metrics. In reality, it lies in synaptic activity, agents that think. So what exactly are these data agents? They are AI-powered interfaces between your warehouse and Azure's cognitive services, built to reason across data, not just query it. They live over one lake but integrate through Azure AI Foundry, where they inherit the ability to retrieve, infer, and apply logic based on your organization's context. And here's the crucial twist. They participate in a framework called Model Context Protocols. That allows multiple agents to share memory and goals so they can collaborate, hand off tasks, and even negotiate outcomes like colleagues who actually read the company manual. Each agent can be configured to respect governance and security boundaries. They don't wander blindly into sensitive data because Fabric enforces policies through purview and role-based access. This governance link gives them something legacy analytics never had: moral restraint. Your CFO's financial agent cannot accidentally read HR salary data unless expressly allowed. It's the difference between reasoning and rummaging. Now contrast these data agents with Copilot, the celebrity assistant everyone loves to talk to. Copilot sits inside Teams or Power BI. It's charming, reactive, and somewhat shallow. It answers what you ask. Data agents, by comparison, are the ones who already read the quarterly forecast, spotted inconsistencies, and drafted recommendations before you even opened the dashboard. Copilot is a student. Agents are auditors. One obeys, the other anticipates. Let's ground this in an example. Your retail business processes daily transactions through Fabric. Without agents, you'd spend Fridays exporting summaries. Top-selling products, regions trending up, anomalies over threshold. With agents, the warehouse becomes sentient enough to notice that sales in Region East are spiking 20% above forecast, while supply chain logs show delayed deliveries. An agent detects the mismatch, tags it as a fulfillment risk, alerts operations, and proposes redistributing inventory preemptively. Nobody asked. It inferred. This isn't science fiction. It's Fabric's real-time intelligence merged with agentic reasoning. Pause on what that means. Your warehouse just performed judgment. Not a query, not an alert, but analysis that required understanding business intent. It identified an anomaly, cross-referenced context, and acted responsibly. That's the threshold where data warehouse becomes decision system. Without agents, you'd still be exporting Power BI visuals into slide decks, pretending you discovered the issue manually. Here's the weird part. Most companies have this capability already activated within their Fabric capacities. They just haven't configured it. They spent the money, got the software, and forgot to initialize cognition, because that requires thinking architecturally, defining semantic relationships, establishing AI instructions, and connecting one-leg endpoints to the reasoning infrastructure. But once you do, everything changes. Dashboards become side effects of intelligence rather than destinations for analysis. Think back to the CSV graveyard metaphor. Those CSVs were tombstones marking where old datasets went to die. Turn on agents and it's resurrection day. The warehouse begins to breathe. Tables align themselves, attributes acquire meaning, and metrics synchronize autonomously. The system doesn't merely report reality, it interprets it while you're still drafting an email about last quarter's KPIs. Of course, this shift requires a mental upgrade, from storage management to cognitive orchestration. Data agents don't wait for instructions. They follow goals. They use model context protocols to communicate with other Microsoft agents, the ones in Power Automate, 365, and Azure AI services, sharing reasoning context across platforms. That's how a data fluctuation can trigger an adaptive workflow or generate new insights inside Excel without human mediation. And yes, when configured poorly, this autonomy can look unnerving, like having interns who act decisively after misreading a spreadsheet. That's why governance, which we'll reach soon, exists. But first, accept this truth. Intelligence delayed is advantage lost. The longer you treat Fabric as cold storage, the more you pay for an AI platform functioning as a glorified backup. So stop mourning your data's potential. Wake the agents. Let your warehouse graduate from archive to organism. Because the next era of analytics isn't about asking better questions. It's about owning systems that answer before you can type them. How to resurrect your warehouse with AI. Time to bring the corpse back to life. Resurrection starts not with code, but with context, because context is oxygen for data. Step 1 is infusing your warehouse with meaning. That means creating semantic models. These models define how your data thinks about itself. Sales are tied to customers, customers to regions, regions to revenue structures. Without them, even the most powerful AI agent is like a linguist handed a dictionary without syntax. In Fabric, you use the data modeling layer to declare these relationships explicitly so your agents can reason instead of guess. Now for step 2, actually deploying a Fabric data agent. This is where you give your warehouse not just a brain but a personality, an operational mind that knows what to look for, when to alert you, and how to connect dots across one lake. In practice, you open Azure AI Foundry, define a data agent, and point it at your Fabric datasets. Instantly, it inherits access to the entire semantic layer. It's not a chatbot, it's a sentient indexer trained on your actual business structure. From now on, every table has a guardian angel capable of pattern recognition and inference. Step 3 is instruction. An agent without parameters is a toddler with access to the corporate VPN. You must provide organization-specific directives. What risk, revenue, or priority mean, which data sources are authoritative, which systems must not be touched without human approval. Governance policies from Purview sync here automatically, but you must define the logical intent. Tell your agent how to behave. The clearer your definitions, the more coherent its reasoning. Think of it as drafting the company handbook for an employee who never sleeps. The fourth step is integration, the part that transforms clever prototypes into daily companions. Connect your data agent to Copilot Studio. Why? Because Copilot provides the natural language interface your employees already understand. When someone in sales types, "Show me emerging churn patterns," Copilot politely forwards the request to your agent, which performs genuine reasoning across datasets and sends a human-readable summary back, complete with citations and traceable lineage. This is intelligence served conversationally. Once this foundation is active, the system begins performing quiet miracles. Consider trend detection. Your agent continually examines transactional data, inventory levels, and forecast metrics. When behavior deviates from expectation, say a holiday surge developing earlier than predicted, it notifies marketing 2 weeks before the anomaly would have appeared in a dashboard. Or picture KPI alerts. Instead of manual threshold rules, the agent recognizes trajectories that historically precede misses and flags them preemptively. Churn prediction, supply chain optimization, compliance verification, every one of these becomes a living process, not a quarterly report. And here's where Fabric's design shines. These agents don't live in isolation. They communicate through model context protocols with other Microsoft services, creating multi-agent orchestration. A Fabric data agent can identify a slow-moving SKU, notify a Power Automate agent to trigger a discount workflow, sync results into Dynamics through another Azure AI agent, and finally present the outcome inside Teams as a business alert. That sequence requires no custom scripts, only properly defined intentions and connections. You've just witnessed distributed intelligence performing genuine work. This is the real point so many miss. Fabric isn't a place for storing results, it's an operating environment for continuous reasoning. Treating it like a static data vault wastes the one architectural innovation that sets it apart. You are supposed to think in agents. Every dataset becomes an actor, every insight becomes an event, every business process becomes an orchestrated adaptive conversation between them. Your job shifts from building pipelines to defining intentions. Some recoil at that. They want comforting determinism, the assurance that nothing changes unless a human presses run. But intelligent systems thrive on feedback loops. When an agent refines a metric or automates an alert, it's not taking control, it's taking responsibility. This is how data finally earns its keep, by detecting issues, making recommendations, and learning from corrections. If you've ever wondered why competitors move faster with the same datasets, it's because their warehouses aren't waiting for instructions. They're conversing internally, resolving micro problems before executives even hear about them. That's what a resurrected Fabric environment looks like. Alive, self-aware, and relentlessly analytical. And yes, giving your data life requires giving it boundaries, because unchecked autonomy quickly mutates into chaos. So before we let these agents roam freely, let's install the guardrails that keep intelligence from becoming insubordination. Governance as the guardrail. Let's talk restraint, the part everyone waves off until something catches fire. Giving your warehouse intelligence without governance is like handing the office intern root access and saying, be creative. AI readiness isn't blind faith, it's engineered trust. And in the Fabric universe, that trust wears 3 uniforms: Purview, data loss prevention, and Fabric's built-in governance layer. Together, they draw the perimeter lines that keep your data agents brilliant but obedient. In human terms, governance keeps curiosity from trespassing. Purview defines who can see what, DLP ensures nothing confidential wanders off in a careless query, and Fabric governance enforces policy right inside the platform's veins. When configured correctly, these systems form a nervous system that detects overreach and enforces discipline at machine speed. Your agents might reason, but they reason inside a sandbox lined with compliance glass. The crucial nuance is that Fabric doesn't treat governance as an external chore. It's native to every transaction. Each dataset carries its own metadata passport, lineage, classification, and access roles. So whenever an agent pulls data, it drags that metadata context with it. That's how Fabric ensures context-aware AI. The information isn't just retrieved, it's traced. You can see who touched it, when, and how it branched through workflows. It's forensic accounting for cognition. Now, let's address the fantasy of ungoverned intelligence. Many teams enable agents, celebrate autonomy, and 3 weeks later wonder why a helpful bot emailed confidential numbers to a shared channel. Because in the absence of explicit authority structures, every agent becomes an improvisational intern convinced it's performing heroically. Governance turns those improvisations into rehearsals with a script. Roles and permissions dictate which datasets an agent can query and what actions require confirmation. The AI still thinks creatively, but it does so while reciting the corporate ethics manual in real time. Metadata enrichment plays a quiet but decisive role here. Every record gains descriptive layers, ownership, sensitivity, lineage, so when an agent composes a summary, it already knows whether the content is public or restricted. Combine that with Fabric's lineage graph, and you can trace any AI-generated conclusion straight back to the raw data source. That closes the interpretability loop, making audits possible even in autonomous operations. It's the difference between explainable automation and plausible deniability. The psychological benefit is immense. Executives stop fearing rogue AI because they can inspect its reasoning trail. Data officers stop writing governance memos because policies travel with the data itself. Fabric achieves what older BI systems never could: self-enforcing compliance. Every insight has provenance baked in, every action is recorded with the precision of a flight data recorder. Of course, rules alone don't guarantee wisdom. You can overgovern and strangle creativity just as easily. Governance is meant to channel intelligence, not muzzle it. The brilliance of Fabric's model is in its proportionality, the balance between automation and accountability. Agents act quickly but within definable thresholds. Decisions requiring empathy, judgment, or liability escalate to humans automatically. You keep the machine fast and the humans responsible. Elegant. So here's the litmus test. If your Fabric environment feels wild, you've undergoverned. If it feels paralyzed, you've overgoverned. The sweet spot is orchestration, a symphony where agents play confidently within the score and compliance hums in rhythm rather than drumming interruptions. Once trust is dialed in, that's when Fabric shows its real nature, a disciplined, sentient collaboration between logic and law. The chaos subsides, insight flows, and for the first time your data behaves not like an unruly teenager, but like a well-trained professional who knows exactly how far brilliance can go before it breaks policy. The intelligent ecosystem. What you've built so far, semantic models, agents, and governance, isn't merely a data warehouse, it's a colony. Every element in Microsoft Fabric is engineered to coexist and cooperate. The beauty lies in unification. Data engineering, business intelligence, and AI all share the same oxygen. Separately, they're impressive. Together, they evolve into something bordering on sentient coordination. Fabric isn't another tool in your tech stack, it's the operating system for enterprise intelligence. Within a single canvas, you can engineer data pipelines, manage warehouses, orchestrate real-time analytics, and invite AI agents to reason across it all. There's no handoff between departments, just one continuous workflow that begins as ingestion and ends as insight. Compare that to the pre-Fabric era, where 4 platforms and 6 handshakes were required before any data made sense. Today, one lake feeds everything, Power BI visualizes it, real-time intelligence reacts to it, and data agents interpret it. You finally have orchestration rather than coordination chaos. Consider predictive maintenance. In a Fabric environment, sensor data streams through real-time intelligence. The data engineering layer shapes it, the data agent detects irregular vibration frequencies, and before a technician even sees a dashboard, a Power Automate agent has scheduled inspection tickets. That's closed-loop cognition, a system that doesn't wait for permission to prevent a problem. Shift to marketing. Campaign data flows into one lake from Dynamics, processed by Data Factory, contextualized by semantic models, and interpreted by an agent trained on historical response patterns. When the click-through rate dips, the agent cross-references seasonality, proposes new timing, and feeds suggestions back into Power BI's Copilot panel for the human marketer to approve. Fabric doesn't replace creativity. It amplifies it with perpetual situational awareness. And manufacturing? An operations agent correlates production data with supply levels, instructing another agent in Azure to rebalance procurement orders automatically. When demand spikes, the system doesn't panic. It reroutes itself in milliseconds. That's what self-adjusting intelligence really means. Data that can feel its own imbalance and correct it before anyone writes an escalation email. Every time Fabric connects these moving parts, the value compounds. Data has lineage, insights have authorship, and actions carry rationale. Power BI isn't just the visualization endpoint, it's an expression surface for the machine's mind. Data Factory ceases to be an ingestion engine and becomes a living artery feeding continuous cognition. Real-time intelligence? That's Fabric's reflexes. Without it, the system would understand but never respond. Together, these layers make up what might be the first truly cooperative digital ecosystem, an environment where storage, reasoning, and action are indistinguishable in practice. The democratizing twist is Copilot. It turns all this complexity into conversation. Business users don't have to learn KQL or DAX. They type questions in Teams. Behind the scenes, Copilot delegates reasoning to data agents which retrieve validated policy-compliant answers. The employees experience instant clarity, while governance officers sleep soundly knowing every statement came with verifiable lineage. It's the union of accessibility and authority, the rare moment when user-friendliness doesn't dilute rigor. This is where the traditional BI mindset finally collapses. Yesterday's data ecosystems produced backward-looking reports. Today's Fabric ecosystem produces situational awareness. You don't measure performance. You experience it continuously. The warehouse isn't passive infrastructure anymore. It's the strategic nervous system of the enterprise. Fabric's intelligence isn't isolated brilliance. It's cooperative genius. Think of the shift visually. The old lake was horizontal. Data flowed in one direction, then stopped. Fabric is vertical. Data rises through engineering, modeling, reasoning, visualization, and action in a perpetual climb like heat rising through an atmosphere. What emerges at the top isn't just analytics. It's foresight. So the question becomes painfully simple. Will you populate this living environment with intelligent entities or keep stacking flat files like gravestones? Because at this stage, ignorance is a choice. Fabric gives you the tissue and the neurons. Refusing activation is like buying a brain and insisting on a coma. When functioning correctly, your Fabric ecosystem behaves less like software and more like an organism synchronized by feedback. Each time a dataset changes, each layer adjusts, ensuring the intelligence never ossifies. That, finally, is what it was built for, not static reporting, but a perpetual state of learning. And now we reach the inevitable crossroad. Whether you intend to maintain that evolutionary loop or close the lid on it again with your next CSV upload. The choice. Here's the blunt truth. Microsoft Fabric isn't a storage product. It's an intelligence engine that masquerades as one to avoid frightening traditionalists. You didn't purchase disk space, you purchased cognition as a service. Your data warehouse breathes only when your agents are awake. When they sleep, the ecosystem reverts to a silent archive pretending to be modern. Your competitors aren't outrunning you with bigger data sets. They're outthinking you with the same data configured intelligently. They let their agents interpret trends before meetings begin. You're still formatting exports. The technological gap is minimal. The cognitive gap is abyssal. So choose your future wisely. Keep treating Fabric like an expensive data morgue or invite it to act like what it was designed to be, a thinking framework for your business. Reanimate those data sets. Let agents reason, let governance guide them, and let insight become reflex rather than ritual. And if this revelation stung even a little, good. That's the sign of conceptual resuscitation. Now, before your next ETL job embalms another month's worth of metrics, subscribe for deeper breakdowns on how to build intelligence into Microsoft Fabric itself. Keep treating it like a CSV graveyard. Just don't call it Fabric.